Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mrs. 4 here. We are actually doing Lyrical. Yes, surprise. It's been very delayed because, as you probably guessed, I cannot afford Lyrical Monastario. So today I have Yuki who will be covering her Alestiel deck.
Alright, hi guys, I'm Yukinoshingun and I'm here to introduce my deck. Alright, so here we're going to talk about the Twin Wings build of the deck. So now we are going to start by talking about what are wings. So firstly, wings are basically decided on the grade of cards in your bind zone. If you have all odd cards in your bind zone, you have white wings. If you have all even cards in your bind zone, you have black wings. However, if you have both even and odd in your bind zone, you get no wings, so please be careful about that. Alright, so now let's move on to the right line, the entire how you set up wings. Okay, so first and foremost, you have the grade 0 Alestiel. When written upon, draw a card. It's your basic starter. You have to run her just to represent. Yes, represent Alestiel. Next, grade 1 Alestiel. When written upon, you can bind the top card of your deck. So basically, when you are going second, you can choose whether you want to draw from the starter first or bind it based on the grade 1 skill. So the order you choose to do this depends on the skill that you want. So yes, that's something to think about. And next, the grade 1 skill, white wings. So when you are discarding for a right deck, you can choose a Soul Blast 1 instead. This helps you conserve your hand and is generally good whether you're going first or second. Then next, the black wing skill. It just prevents your opponent from attacking you with grade 1 or lower rear guards. So their vanguard can still swing you, but that means that if they want to rush you going first, they have to call down grade 2 units, which would later lead into the skill of the grade 2 Alestiel. So we'll look at the grade 2 Alestiel now. Grade 2 Alestiel, her skill. When placed, you can choose a card in your bind zone, send it to the bottom of the deck, and buy a new card from the top of the deck. This allows you to gain information on the bottom card of your deck, and additionally speaking, her white wing skill is very potent. So basically, it's just a counter blast 1, gain a critical. Nothing much about it, but the way to make the best use of it is call down a booster, so your opponent is forced to guard even more, or even forced to let it pass. So we are going to talk about the black wing skill earlier, which leads in from the previous grade 1 black wing skill, which prevents rush. So let's say that they rush you with grade 2. The black wing skill of the grade 2 Alestiel prevents them from guarding with triggers from hand. So what they will be forced to do if they wanted to guard the attack is either guard with their pieces from hand or just intercept one of their pieces. So it doesn't really matter if they use their grade 2s to rush you, they'll be forced to compensate for that anyway. Alright, so last but not least, let's look at the most important part of the build, grade 3 Alestiel. So her skill is at the start of main phase, add a card from your bind zone to your hand and then bind the top card of your deck. So remember about the timing of this skill. If you want a persona right, you have to do it before this skill, so don't forget that. And also any other skills has to be accounted for. So her white wing skill is basically just gain 5k and a critical. Very good for pressure and it's completely free. That's the best part about the deck. The free advantage that comes with it. And then we're going to look at her black wing skill, which basically makes all your opponent's units gain minus 5k. Yes, even their vanguard. Okay, so moving on, we are going to finally talk about the support. Okay, let's start with the grade 3s.
In our grade 3s, we play 1 copy of Alestiel for the right deck. We play 3 more in the main deck, and then we play 4 copies of her. So just a very quick breakdown. Alestiel is obviously the main card in the deck. You play 3 extra copies for the persona right, and now for her.
Alright, so talking about Alkill. So Alkill's skill is basically when she was bind this turn, you gain twin wings. So she basically allows you to just go ham, activate all your skills and not think too much. And also another thing, when your vanguard is placed, you can choose to bind her, draw a card, and then gain twin wings that way. However, do note, as I mentioned earlier, when you have more different odd and even in your bind zone essentially breaks, so you don't get any effects. So when you are using her, you have to be prepared to either commit to continually persona riding and using her, or you have to be very careful about the card that you are taking out so that you try your best not to end up with no wings.
Alright, moving on to the rest of the grade 2s. We play one copy of Alestiel for the right deck. And we play 2 of this. We play 4 of this. We play 1 of this. Okay, so very quickly getting this out of the way, Alestiel is part of the right deck. So yeah, let's move on to the rest of the deck.
Alright, let's talk about one of the most effective tools in Black Wings. It is Baruel. So basically, Baruel's skill is this. Black Wings, on place, Soul Blast 3, and then you get to, for every 2 even grade rear guards that you have, inclusive of Baruel when she's placed. So the timing when she's placed is quite important. You can choose 2 units and give them minus 5k, including your opponent's vanguard. So what's so great about the skill? Well, it's the second part of this skill that actually matters. So basically, any units which are 0k or less power at the activation of this skill can be sent to the bottom of the deck in any order. So timing this skill is very important as it allows you to achieve magic numbers, and also it's just an easy way to get rid of Trickstar's resist, because your Vanguard minus 5k to all units doesn't choose, the return to button deck doesn't choose. So yes, Baruel nukes Trickstars, let that be known.
Not that Trickstars matter relevant. Next.
Yes. Alright, so moving on to the next part of the Black Wings build. It's MIL. MIL has a very useful skill. At the end of the battle, this unit was boosted. You can choose any card from your field or your soul, and you can add it back to your hand. But if you choose a card from your soul, you have to put her to soul instead. So, as mentioned earlier, MIL is a way to recycle your persona, right? So that you can continually use LQ. So, and another thing to do is that you can just bounce her so that you can continually bounce other units. But take note that like you are committing 2 units to a field in order to activate her skill. So just keep that in mind. And if you want to early rush with grade 1s, she can also help with that, because she can, if your grade 1s have on place or you want them back later, you can just call her on a Blackwing turn and just get them back.
It's also a great rush card because you can just put it down on turn 2 and swing, and her effect triggers off every time you have Black Wings on, which is either through black or multi, which is pretty neat. It's one of the best cards that Black Wings actually have in terms of utility. It's not really fitting with the whole Black Wings theme of beatdown, but I would say this utility really helps make Black Wings somewhat viable in both multi and pure black. So yeah, just putting that out there.
Yes. Alright, moving on. So here's one of the more important cards of the deck. It's our Wing Changer. So basically, Shayla's skill. It's an X skill, counter blast 1, move this unit to soul, draw a card, and then you can give grade +1 to any unit in the bind zone. So not only can you change your wing state, if you have used LQ and your bind zone is now breaking, you can now use her to actually gain 1 of 2 wings. So that's actually really cool. And also, she can just be spammed for the cycle, right? If all you have in the hand are her. So you can just basically unbreak yourself with her. And also, her additional skill is this unit cannot be attacked by opponent's rear guards or chosen by opponent's effects on Black Wings. So basically, if you're going out against decks which count the number of open rear guard circles, like for example, Derek or Eugene, this can just be placed there just to stop them from profiting too much of your empty spaces because they can't do anything about her.
Alright, moving on to our grade 1s. We play a copy of Alestiel for the right deck. We play 3 Ilimuel, 4 PG, 2 of Bibuel, right?
That's Miael.
And 4 Maribuel. Okay, so just quickly getting it out of the way, this is obviously for the right deck. These are your stronger PGs. Lyrical has the benefit of having 5 different stronger PGs, so really stock and supply is quite big, so you should be able to afford it. It's just really good to play your stronger PGs. Yeah.
Yep. Alright, so moving on to Elimuel. Basically, her skill is on place for every 3 or greater units, inclusive of your Vanguard. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can choose one of your rearguards for every 3 or greater units you have and give them plus 5k and a critical. Since this is an X skill, you can actually combo it with some of the Black Wings units if you know how to time it correctly. And also, as I stated earlier, sometimes you might want to drop her down for early rush because MIL exists and you can just bounce her back to use her on place later on. Alright, so moving on to Miael. Miael's skill is basically when placed, not even when placed from hand actually, you can just counter blast 1, soul blast 1 on White Wings, and then choose any card which is 8k, exactly 8k from your drop zone, and you can add it back to your hand. So basically, this allows you to A. Fill the board for Elimuel, B. Get extra Elimuel, or C. Gain extra shader if you're setting up for something. So it's overall a good card, but we are running it at 2 because we don't really have a lot of 8k base in this deck. One thing to note is that when you are using her skill, remember to check both the soul and the drop zone because the card that you soul blast out can also be retrieved. So that's just something to note. Alright, last but not least, it's Maribua. She's a 5k base on White Wings. During your turn, she gains 10k. So what she does basically is just give you very big numbers on White Wings, which White Wings often suffers from due to not having the minus 5k or other effective forms of beatdown. And the reason why I also run her is to shift the deck more towards a white ratio so that the Elimuel can come online more often.
Moving on to our grade zeros, we play obviously the Alestiel starter. We play 1 OT. We play a total of 8 crits thanks to the new restriction. We play 3 fronts and we play 4 heals. Let's break it down real quick. Alestiel starter is quite obvious. We also play 8 crits because we intend to kill Bruce before he kills us. We play 4 heals because this is a Vanguard. Our OT, this is the Lyrical OT. The Lyrical OT is really good. If you drive check it, all your rear guards gain a force 1, which is pretty busted if you ask me. You know, like have you ever played against Moderate? Yeah. Then of course we play 3 fronts to finish off the crits that were killed. We don't play draws because Alestiel actually has very good draw and cycling power. And in addition, she can also deck out pretty fast if you are not careful. So we actually play fronts to up our kill pressure since we more rather have the larger kill pressure than the actual pieces. I will say one more thing though, and that is that Lyrical does not have access to any of the rare crit gimmicks or front gimmicks for that matter that the main 5 fellas have enjoyed. These will obviously come in Lyrical set 2, so you are advised to save now. So that's why we don't actually have the shield fronts, but I'm pretty sure if we had the shield fronts, we'd be playing.
Yes.
Yes. Alright, so moving back. Yes, I repeated that twice. I needed to do an edit. So now we are going to be talking about the options that didn't make it into our Alestiel deck. Now, there's a reason why we're doing this, just like what we did for Iron Anchor before. Alestiel is one of the slightly more controversial decks that doesn't get a lot of coverage, and there are a lot of ways of thinking about it. You know, some people ask, why not just all White Wings? Why bother with pure? Or why do you play so and so in your deck and not the options I had in mind? So we're going to spend a bit of time now to actually talk about the more popular choices that you do see in your Alestiel builds, or maybe options that you fervently defend, and we are here to break you down in this segment. So we're going to start off with the White Wing options that didn't make it into this build, followed by the Black Wings, and then the generic stuff that you didn't see.
Alright, so here we're going to talk about Bibuel, which is one of the White Wings, which is the White Wings wing changer. So basically, what Bibuel does is just Soul Blast 1, retire this unit, and then you can choose a trigger unit in your bind zone to gain a grade. So the reason why we don't run her in this deck is because we run quite a healthy amount of grade 2s, which basically prevents us from using Bibuel's skill if we really wanted White Wings. So that effectively reduces her effectiveness, and also her Soul Blast cost takes away from other skills we might want to use. For example, Burial's really highly costed, but effective Soul Blast 3, which at the start of every game we only have one shot of until we either Persona right or use shaders. So that is something you wanna keep in mind. And also her other skill, her White Wing skill, gain 5k and gain 5k power and 5k shield, is not really very effective, as it just basically brings her back to a 13k base. And also, if you're using her as a wing changer, you don't want to guard with her.
So that basically shows that this card isn't really good in Twin Wings, but if you're playing all White Wings, this is definitely something you have to carry.
Yes. Alright, moving on to Danael. So basically Danael has this skill, White Wings. When this unit boosts, Soul Blast 2, choose one of your other units and it gains power plus 5k until end of turn for each of your other units with upgrades. So basically, she can give up from anywhere from 0 to up to 25k power to any of your other units. But for 1, you have to have a full field for the maximum effect. And for 2, if you're doing that, your entire field is hopefully grade 3s and grade 1s, or if you're spamming grade 1s for this, it's not worth it. And also Soul Blast 2 is quite a heavy cost, as we have mentioned earlier, and that's why we are not running it in this build.
If you want to play Sentry Guard, you can use it. Moving on to our Black Wings options that didn't make the cut.
Alright, so here we have Chisuel, which is basically a tech choice depending on your local meta. So what she does is, when placed Black Wings, when placed on the Guardian Circle, you can choose one of your opponent's back row rearguards and rest them. So, surprise, this is very effective against decks which rely on their boosters such as Magnolia, back row units such as Magnolia, Greedon. You can just disable an entire Greedon restand with just one card, and you can also disable cards like which require boost, like for example Boba Mine, or the entirety of Bruce's funny stuff like Protobal and Gear Double.
Well, if you think Bruce can be stopped by killing one Bruce, you've never played Bruce Leonard. Too good.
Anything to stop it, man. It helps. And there's another consideration we need to talk about when using this card. You might be saying, oh, in a Twin Wings build, or for example, if you're taking it into a White Wings build, for example, wouldn't she not come online most of the time? But you have to remember, most of your deck is forced to be grade 0 triggers. So there's quite a high chance actually that you will have that you're buying black and then you'll be able to use her. So that's that. Don't worry too much about her if you're using her in a Twin Wings build or a Black Wings build. Alright, moving on, we are going to talk about Cheruel. So basically, Cheruel's skill is when this unit attacks, you can choose, you counter blast 1, Soul Charge 1, and you choose one of your opponent's rearguards, and this opponent rearguard cannot stand during the next turn phase. So it's quite the overcosted skill, but it's very potent. So you can see some Blackwing builds running it, but generally speaking, in our Twin Wings build, where we are very tight on cost, we don't run her. And also for the same reasons as Chisuel, she can really mess with the opponent by, for example, preventing Leonard restand, or just disabling Greedon again, leaving them with a dead card.
Why do you hate Greedon? Alright, moving on to our generic options that did not make the cut. This one's the one that's the most interesting in my opinion, because these are seen both in White Wings as well as the Dual Wings build. Mainly these two I'm talking about are Shia and the Persona Right Searcher, whose name I've just forgotten. Alright.
It's Ludia.
Alright, so let's break it down. Shia. In the horrific and demonic rise of Lyrical Monastario, this card was dubbed as the next Lissolet. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking, well, if it's so good, why are we not playing it? It is true, no doubt, that this card is very similar to Lissolet, but there is an actual difference between Lissolet and this. Lissolet was a grade 2 that could hop on grade 1 and start gaining free advantage and just beat you until you become the fish and chips. But Shia is a lot different. Shia not only has a cost to gain this advantage, so it's not exactly free, and to make matters worse, after you do it, you're just left with a grade 1 3k body, which Alestiel doesn't need, because Alestiel has so much better options to be played in her deck rather than this. If you want to play this in White Wings, I think it's a great option to help you plus and keep the ball rolling on your little DOTX build. But to be very frank, in a Twin Wings build, you really just don't need this little cycle grade 3 card, 3k card. So personally, I feel it doesn't make the cut unless Alestiel just gets better quality pieces in general, where you would want to get a cycling motion for these cards that perhaps Shia could see play. I'm not saying Shia's a bad card, by all means no. Shia's definitely a great card. It's just that she does not earn a spot in our Alestiel deck as of now. Ludia, on the other hand, is a totally different story. Ludia's skill is, when placed on the rearguard circle, counterblast 1, choose 2 cards from your hand and move it to the bottom of your deck. Search your deck for a copy of your Grade 3 Vanguard, is it? Grade 3
Yes.
Vanguard, and add it to your hand. So essentially, you net -2 to get 1 back, and that 1 back would definitely help you cycle again because it's a Persona Right. Is that correct?
And yes, and also we have to take note that the 2 you return to the deck must be normal units.
So you must be normal units. So you can't even filter back your triggers for a more offensive push. Not only is this a issue of minusing, you're straight up just playing a card to wait for next turn. And if you're playing Overdress, there's sometimes where there is no next turn. So why bother saving for next turn where you can actually do things now and play active pieces that give you value right now? Yes, I understand that Persona Rights are very valuable, and rightfully so. That's how Overdress is played. But to be honest, Alestiel is not a deck which is barred by Persona Right, like stuff like Hexor, Magnolia. So really, you can afford to not really aim or strive for the Persona Right. You can really just spend it on more instantaneous and more valuable pieces, in my opinion. Unless, like I said, similar to Shia, Alestiel's quality of pieces goes up dramatically in the next few sets, then you would prefer such generic support to help bolster the rest of your deck as an engine, then perhaps this card could see play. And now we have moved on to the summary of Alestiel.
Alright, so basically all in all, this is just a deck which has a lot of high impact pieces and requires a lot of thoughtful planning. So basically a lot of our skills are on plays or basically just at the end of battle this unit attack or boosted. So the timing of the calling and your attacking is very important. And that's why a lot of people always joke that, Alestiel is true to Angel Feather, open inverted commas, roots in the sense that she has a very long egg face.
So that's pretty much it. Thank you all so much for watching. We may end up doing more lyrical if I can somehow afford it, but I probably won't. We are still in the midst of covering DBT03 at the same time. Like I mentioned before my Eugene deck profile, it's pretty hard for me to get my hands on DBT03 decks, but I'll cover whatever I can. Next episode will either be about Baromagnes or will probably be on Hexorb Sorceress. So stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Thank you!